No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
All right, folks, and we're back with episode 14, and we are fortunate enough to have Q back on the show again in such a short amount of time since he was handling the Chieftain for us last week. And since we didn't send you questions in advance to kind of give you an idea, it's a nice leisurely Saturday ambush for you.
Yes, I'm excited to see what you guys are going to bring up today, and it was good times coming with the Chieftain. I was just there because he wanted to make sure if there's any questions that he couldn't answer about the game, really. But I think we had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we like to check back in once in a while with the state of the game, and there's some constant themes, and one of the first ones I noticed over the last 30 days, 40 days ish is that I've seen a lot more people on the North American server. I've actually seen a consistent number above 14K, and I know you guys kind of track that a lot. I was just wondering if you saw enough of a trend to put it towards something. Was there an event, or is it just a constant growth of people coming to the game?
It's a combination of those, definitely. We've been trying to get the word out, kind of organically, but then also through advertising as well. So we've been trying to work with a lot of streamers. But I think, the biggest thing we always see that gets people in the game is patches. People want to play with new stuff. So I think a lot of this is driven, of course, with the announcement of British cruisers coming, but then German battleships being in the game, which was a huge thing that people wanted for a long time. So we, in all regions, we saw a huge boost, but definitely in NA and especially in EU, of course, people wanted to play the German battleships. So I think that's probably one of the primary drivers in the last few weeks. But then, of course, there's also just been our continuous work just to grow the community over time.
Well, so is there a conscious decision to try and get patch drops quicker and quicker, or content quicker and quicker?
Yeah, I think I talked about this when I first stepped on a while back ago, that we were thinking about moving to this really sort of quick dev cycle. And so now, right now we're on a 3-week release cycle. So every 3 weeks we're trying to get a new patch out, and that's not a minor patch with bug fixes or something like that. I mean, that's a major number change patch every time. So that's a pretty quick pace, which means we're actually working on a sort of 6-week dev cycle that's sort of offset from each other. And so basically things are moving down the pipeline, rolling into the next sort of workflow, getting into like super testing and stuff, while things are already going back into the next set of development, earlier on than that. So it's this sort of constant workhorse of just crazy updates we're doing, and we want to keep that up. We have no plans of stopping anytime soon. We've got plans through at least through 2017 that are pretty solid, and then 2020 we can start talking about too.
Well, I know what the political answer is going to be, but we're going to see if we can kind of pin you down to something. Do you guys, or how closely do you watch other developers' content releases? And the one I'm talking about recently is the War Thunder decision, the Gaijin decision, and the way they're going to implement ships into their game. And is that something, a space you guys watch, or does it influence any decisions, or is it, the party line that we're just going to build the best game we can, and that's what it is?
Well, that's definitely true. We are just, we're going to focus on our game, and their game is going to be definitely very different. But that being said, I actually think it's really cool, and we're actually happy as a company to have more people jump into this space, because I think it just drives a bigger awareness of this kind of game style and community. So in general, we don't like, oh man, this competitor coming in, we gotta make sure we beat them. It's like, oh cool, those guys are going to try and do something cool. Wonder what they're doing. It's a lot more of an industry where you're not necessarily trying to compete with each other when you're in these kind of smaller markets of historical Navy, first person action games or third person action games. It's kind of a small group. There's not that many games out there right now, so it's kind of cool to see other people try and jump in and do some different things with it and do some different play styles. I think their game is going to have some, looks like a lot more actiony, a lot more like much more like a shooter when you're sort of just quickly firing and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see how it develops. So we'll definitely be watching it. But we have I don't know if that's quite the right way to couch it as we view them as we've got to stop them or something like that, because I don't think that's what we want to do.
No,
Is
but
is that less PC? I don't know, maybe not.
yeah, it is. But I mean, I think a lot of people, and myself included, was really interested in the way they were going to implement capital ships, and I know a lot of people who, kind of dipped their foot in warships, but they were really waiting for what War Thunder was going to do, and now that they're not really going to fill the same space, and they've gone a somewhat drastically different direction, I could call it. That I don't know, maybe an anticipation of some number increase, or maybe some relief on your guys' part that, hey, at least we're doing two different things and not competing for the same player base.
Yeah, again, like I don't think relief is the right way to think about it. It's interesting the way they went. We obviously made very different choices, and when we were thinking about how we wanted the game to play, and it'll just be interesting to see what they do with it. I don't know how their game is going to turn out, but. We view it as it's good to get more people in the space to just draw a bigger community here, because a lot of people don't play just one game. A lot of people play multiple games. Like I've got a Steam list here full of 500 games that I play. I don't know. Even on my recent played list, there's 7 different games right now. So I don't. It's not so much of a direct competition, I don't think.
Well, I'd love you to tell me how you fit that in, because I basically have got one game that I can fit in, and that's this one right now. So if you got any tips on how to play more games, I'm all ears. But
the best part is so you just you've got to have a job that lets you play video games all day. That's the key.
All right, that's the key. I'll work on that one. That's my retirement job, I guess.
Yeah, no, Warships is obviously a big commitment, and a lot of people play it exclusively. I play a huge amount of Warships during the day, but I still, when I come home, I play a lot of Warships, and I don't have an account that's like unlocked everything. I use my own personal account to grind through stuff. I do have some doubloons and things like that I use for things, but I don't go crazy. So I enjoy this game because I like to go, and I come home and just sit down and play some Kamikaze R. I've been working on right now. I'm trying to get up to the Zao and of course the German BBs. So it's a fun game, but it is a game that can absorb you completely.
Well, I got a question for you then, since you said it's on your personal account. How many premiums have you bought?
Well, so before I worked for the company, I played World of Tanks for quite a while. And when I joined the company, I looked at how much I'd actually spent on a game. And so are you talking about those, or are you talking about just specifically for ships? Like how many have I purchased myself?
For ships.
Just ships, but you opened the door, so go crazy.
Well, okay. We'll start off with tanks then real quick, and I'll go into ships. Tanks. I think everyone, from my understanding, like when I thought about the number, it was probably about 20% higher than I thought it was. And so I don't know. I'd spent about like $200-$300 on the game before I joined the company. And I think that's over the course of it, a couple years or so. So I wasn't spending money like it's going out of style on it. But I enjoyed the game, and I thought it was fun. And so I paid to get crew trainer. I got a T-34. I bought a whole bunch of premium tanks. I can't remember off the top of my head what are the other ones I have. But I did also spend regularly on premium. That was probably the thing I spent the most on. And same thing for my account here is probably I use most of my doubloons to go to premium time. Couple of the ones the ones I really enjoy of my ships are the ones I've actually earned, like I said, the Kamikaze R, the Fujin. I really love the Mikasa. But in terms of ones I've purchased, I don't know if I've purchased any of the recent ones, but I did purchase the Gremiashi or pre-order ship when it came out.
So you don't have a Tirpitz?
I do have a Tirpitz because from when I was testing it, so it's still in my account, and I haven't taken it off there. So I cheated a little bit with that one.
All right. Well,
speaking of premium ships, though, is there any plans to implement like a trial system for premium ships? Like you can try the ship out for like a battle tube before you commit to buying it.
Yeah, so there's a rental system that we've been thinking about for a while, and we've actually rolled it out on some of our servers in China, I believe. But right now it's still kind of in testing. But yeah, it's something we want to try and figure out how we can do for the other regions, especially for North America. Like, what would be good to allow people to sort of be able to try, tanks ships out. I was talking about tanks now; it's getting me mixed up. Try out a ship for a couple battles, maybe for a day or something like that. We have some functionality right now. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to give people those options. Maybe it's a mission that if you want to try out a ship, everyone, you can go and try a certain mission to unlock that ship, and then you'll have it for, a half a day or 2 days or something, or who knows. So yeah, it's something we're thinking about, but we don't have quite a solid plan on how we're going to implement it yet.
Okay. But also moving forward, will Wargame be more clear about communicating to us, like which premium ships are going to wind up in the tech tree and which ones are going to remain like exclusive?
Yeah, so actually, we have we are going to move some stuff around in the tech tree actually in the upcoming future, and I'm going to try and make a video on it explaining, hey, here's why we're moving these ones out. Here's the ones that are coming in, and I think the thing you're asking about though is like when we sell a ship for the first time or give it away or whatever, like what is the status of that long term? And sometimes it's a little hard for us to know because we want to get stuff out as it's done, and it's like, oh, we got this cool ship, but we should give people a chance to get it either through a mission or through the store or whatever. Um, and we're like, okay, well, this ship is cool. Should we move to the tech tree? Well, what is its balance like? Is it something we want everyone to have access to? Is it not? Is it, so there's a lot of things that go into discussion each month when we're looking at the balance of ships. And, of course, premium ships, when they first get released, like the stats, normalize over time. You get a lot of different kinds of people playing it very early on because a lot of people, purchase it in the first few days. But then, after people start understanding the ship for a bit, you see the stats normalize for a while. So sometimes we don't know how a ship, is really going to fit in terms of in the bigger picture until, we've let it sit there for, maybe a month or so.
Well, I think what you're asking, Spectre, is maybe if there's like a mid-term like calendar roadmap kind of thing that people can refer to. Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe not quite. Just when a new premium ship hits, like when the Turpers first came out, it was advertised that, oh, this is a limited availability ship. Get it now or don't get it at all. And obviously, I think like 8 months later, it's now openly available on the tech tree. I know a number of people sprung for the Turpus bundles because they thought they would not have a chance to get it later. And so it'd just be nice to know, like, do I need to buy the Dunkirk right now, or can I decision off until later?
Yeah, I think we want to be more upfront and clear about that stuff. And I think in the articles, just also in how the ship plays, you talk about the Dunkirk. I think there's a lot of misconceptions on what that thing is strong at, what it's weak at, and in general, we need to do a better job of that. We've actually been working with the content guys, but also the monetization team of being like, okay, how do we make sure that everyone understands clearly what they're buying into, and and definitely it's something we don't want to be ambiguous because we want you guys to understand what a ship is, how rare it's going to be, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna try and do a better job of that. And we can definitely say we haven't done the best job, especially in the last couple releases of ships with that.
Well, I thought it was funny. We talked last week, and then the next day, I think it was, the patch dropped, and then there was also a video of like the Scharnhorst and what the Scharnhorst is and is supposed to do.
Yeah, the Squall Line video.
Yeah, and then the English cruisers after we grilled you about the cruisers, and and then the next day there's the, oh yeah, hey, guess what? English cruisers are coming. I just feel like you set us up.
Sometimes it's nice to have bigger knowledge than and just you got to play the cards sometimes. Can't tell you guys everything.
Well, just stop taking my money. Let's do that, because it's getting ridiculous, right? Yeah, I bought the Scharnhorst, I bought the Dunkirk, and I know that's on me, but I love them and they're fun. I didn't think I'd like the Dunkirk, but I decided to give it a shot, and you know what? It's a lot like the Arizona. It's soft, but the guns are surprising. I will say that they surprise me every time. So I like it. It's good at tier 6. It's fast.
Yeah, I've been jumping in with it for a bit the last few days, and then of course I did a lot of testing on it when we were leading up to the sale and things like that. And it's definitely a different play style. And I think it's important for us to communicate what the play style of each ship is. And one thing we want to do is try to look at the World of Tanks way that they do it with a lot of their articles, where they say like, hey, this is what this ship's good at. This is why you should buy this ship. This is why you shouldn't buy this ship, because if you're expecting a heavily armored battleship with great guns that are going to take on other battleships, then you shouldn't buy the Dunkirk. But it's just, but instead you maybe want to buy the Tirpitz or something. Who knows? Like there are things that can maybe satisfy you for what you're looking for. But we want to release unique ships as well. So the Dunkirk is a great example of, it's a ship that has a very unique play style, and I think if you play it like a traditional battleship, you're not going to have a great time. But if you kind of work with what it's got, I think it's actually a really interesting ship.
Well, I'm always pretty critical of stuff, and so I'll just go on the record because I thought the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst position in the tech tree was wrong. But after doing it, I got to say, I think that was probably the right decision. I mean, we can go back and talk about the gun choice on the Gneisenau, but as it's set up now, I can appreciate why it is the way it is. So I'll concede that.
Thank you. We don't. I will admit, from our side, we don't always get it right. But we do have a big team of guys who care about this stuff a lot, and they are trying to parse a lot of crazy information from all of this. These documents we've taken from these military institutions that have been so nice enough to give us these very, very detailed plans. And it's when trying to translate into the game, there's a lot of objective things, but there's also a lot of subjective things where you just kind of have to make calls. So we try. Thank you for understanding that difference makes sense.
So I got a question on the Bismarck. Now that I'm through the Bismarck and to the 9, and originally I was like, the Bismarck doesn't have torpedoes. I'm still going to love the Tirpitz more. But it's all about the secondaries on that ship. And while looking in game, it kind of looks identical to the Tier 9. They just feel a lot different. So I'm wondering if there's some secret jujitsu behind just the Bismarck's secondaries, or if that's just my faulty perspective, I guess.
No, the secondaries are awesome on the Bismarck. I jumped in a press account because I wanted to try and max out to see how good the secondaries are. So I threw in as much stuff as I could on it with a 19-point captain, and those things just tear things apart around them. They are absolutely brutal. The Bismarck is going to be one of my favorite secondary ships now in the game by far. So at least I personally don't think you're wrong. I've had a lot of fun with it so far. They are not too inaccurate when you have the secondary ability to just target stuff, and there's just so many, and the rate of fire is great enough that things just melt.
So what I heard you just say is you're going to be the North American champion for preventing it from getting nerfed, right?
I'm enjoying the secondaries right now, so I don't think they're too overpowered, but we'll have to see from the stats when we look at them as the weeks go on.
Well, so I thought it was a curious selection to give the 8 and up German battleships hydroacoustic, and I was wondering if you could if you knew what the design choice for that was, what it was that said, hey, especially because it's German hydroacoustic, which is better than the normal stuff, that, what was it that said, hey, we absolutely need to give that to them?
Well, we tested them without it, and they kind of felt like they needed something that made them a little bit more special, something that, I don't know, made them able to deal with destroyers a little bit more. So we thought, okay, we tried a few other things. We gave them a couple other abilities, and we actually settled on hydroacoustics because it just kind of felt right. And with the German upgraded one, it actually is fairly useful for battleships. So, and we saw it actually change the gameplay quite a bit as people felt a little bit more, could feel like they'd be a little bit more aggressive in battle because they had this hydroacoustics just in case. But it's a fun little addition that makes that line kind of special.
Well, what other options did you try before you settled on hydro?
Let's see. We tried some of the other cruiser abilities, like AA buffs and things like that. I believe there was a few other things we had rolling around, but that was the main one we'd settled on. And we want to kind of give a lot of lines this kind of unique flavor, so there's a reason to sort of go up that line versus another. With the British cruisers, there's a couple cool things we're trying as well. Right now, it's in testing is the ability to fire torpedoes singularly, one at a time. And that's I've been testing that recently, and that is a lot of fun. And if you can judge how much damage you can do with just 2 torpedoes or 3 torpedoes, you can kind of save a couple, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, so with that ability, that's introducing a third option. So does that mean they have widespread, narrow spread, and single?
Yeah, the original design, I believe is you can switch between all 3 of those. So you just like you normally hit, you hit the 3 key and you sort of start toggle between them. I believe I can't remember if we had in yet that you could maybe hold a modifier key like Control or Alt, and I think Alt, and fire them like normal, even if you were on the single spread. But I can't remember if that was going to make it or not.
So I know the video that was just released kind of talked about that, and I know once people really fully understand that, it's going to be my arch nemesis, Japanese destroyer players, going, why can't I get that on my destroyers? And so I know it's going to be a balance thing, right? But I mean, surely you got to already be wrestling with that topic and crafting your response, right? Which is no.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we talked about it actually in the video I released. Well, I'm not sure when this podcast coming out, maybe a week or two ago now. I sat down with Archer, the global publishing producer, and we started talking about it. And both of our feelings was that we have to really see how it goes. It seems really dangerous to us that if we added to certain ships, that could make them just substantially better than all other ships in their class. So we have to be careful with it, but we'll see. I'm not going to rule it out, but right now we're going to limit it and just to the British cruisers, I believe, on release. At least that's the plan at the moment.
Well, so I mean, is that design feature and preparation for submarines?
No, definitely not.
No? All right. So no submarines then is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll put submarines in someday, but we'll see. I don't know what they'll be like, and I don't know. I couldn't confirm or deny submarines will ever make it, but I imagine some point we'll have something that resembles a submarine in our game.
All right. I told you I was going to ask you about that one. You knew that was coming at least.
Yeah, I knew that one's coming.
So shortly after we talked the last time, a lot of patch stuff came out, and so we don't really want to rehash patch stuff per se, but it led us to start talking about some questions and mechanics in the game that while a lot of quality of life and interface stuff it's continually getting better, we're always looking for the next thing after that, right? So you gave that to us. Let's figure out what else we can squeeze out of this. So one of the things we were talking about is what about right now the reporting system? How does that reporting system actually get implemented? What do you do with the reports?
So there's two ways we use those reports. First off, there's an automated system that will flag people and ban people accordingly, as bots. If we just see a significant, ping in the number of people who are reporting, and that's not just like one group of people just spamming a guy. You can't do that. But we have algorithms that are detecting the correct patterns for when a guy is clearly a bot in the game, and if people report that, it gets automatically added to a list to ban him. But on top of that, though, we also have access to the automated system through our back end. So whenever we're reviewing tickets or anything like that, we can see, how many complaints this person has. We see how many times this person has been complimented and all that kind of stuff. So it goes into all of the whole ticket system that the support team uses to help deal with support tickets. And then on top of that, Nix on the forums as with the player experience folks do a really cool thing where they reward people for good behavior, and so they're also using that system for ships to reward people who are getting complimented and not getting dinged too often. Of course, we have ways to deal with people who are trying to send in false positives, so don't try and spam the system. It doesn't work.
So what do you do with the plays poorly?
Plays poorly could mean a bunch of different things. So we take that into account that it's kind of ambiguous what that means. So, we'll see that number in the list. So if maybe this guy is very new and he's only had 10 games but he has a tier 8 premium ship, and we see he's got a bunch of plays poorly, and someone sends a ticket on him about TK, and we go, oh, well, maybe this guy just doesn't know what he's doing, or maybe he's an asshole and we have to go deal with him. And, it just gives us the ability to a little bit more information when we're going into tickets, basically.
Does reporting a person for something multiple times do anything? Because I know some people like to say, I'm going to spend all 7 of my reports on you. Does that actually do anything, or is it just a waste after you report them once?
It's a waste after you report them once. There's no point in doing it. If you see them doing it again later in another game, and there's after a period of time has passed, then you can. But if you just spam them all at once, you've just wasted all your reports that day.
Okay. I know that you guys have a system for automatically detecting this probably, but why isn't there a report AFK button?
AFKs are automatically dealt with. I mean, if someone doesn't move within a certain period of the time from starting the battle, they'll just be sunk.
Well, I'm more talking about the kind of people who maybe, are there for the beginning, but for whatever reason disappear midway through the battle. Is the system smart enough to pick up on that?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into the exact system that it looks into, or what it actually looks at. But I believe if you are AFK for any, for a significant amount of time, it will either notify you or finish the battle. But I think like if they'd probably jump by like near the end of the battle and they just stop playing, I don't think it'll probably have time to trigger. So it might not catch that kind of stuff. I'm not sure.
All right. So a while back, you guys ran a basically repair reduction trial, and just kind of wondering what you guys took away from the repair cost reduction and what that kind of means for the future, especially for tier 10 matches.
Yeah, so this is a topic we were just talking about last week, and it's sort of still in discussion. We're looking at the data, what kind of a behavior we encouraged, what changed in general, how many people started playing 9 and 10s more, what was the sort of impact, and right now we're still examining data. It's also useful now that like the repair experiment has stopped to sort of now compare it to the baseline of what it would normally be. So it's something we're still discussing, but it's definitely a topic that still we're working on.
I know you haven't fully analyzed the data yet, but did you see a trend of players play more high tier stuff?
It's hard to say. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. We saw a little bump definitely in people, of course, just because it's cheaper to run and people are going to do it if they know about it. But it wasn't as significant as we hoped. But in some cases, maybe it's not about just the sheer volume. Maybe it's important for the percentage we managed to move over that period of time. And so we're still kind of examining how significant the impact was. We're actively debating that right now, actually.
Speaking of tier 10 ships, a lot of people recently have pointed at the lifting of the repair discount for tier 10 matches as sort of degenerating to these long range snipe fests between battleships and destroyers. Is Wargaming, looking at that and trying to find like a different solution to address this?
Yeah, we actually also mentioned this in that interview the other day with Artur. I was asking him, like, so how are the dev team sort of feeling about the high tier meta in general, and his sort of opinion, I think,
Right.
reflects.
He said he was dissatisfied.
Yeah, and I think what he's as he's talking about is that it is too much about sniping at long distances. It's not about being aggressive. There aren't being aggressive is not rewarded in a lot of cases because you just get destroyed too quickly, and it's too much of a problem to try and coordinate with your team because everyone else wants to hang back because they're worried about their repair costs. And so it's this kind of like cyclical thing where it's just there's a lot of issues I think we need to solve, and we got to figure that out, and we definitely know it's a problem. So but I don't have an answer of like how we're going to solve that yet. Unfortunately we're still trying to figure that out.
Well, I think is one of those options that you're trying is the game mode. I mean, the new Epicenter game mode.
Yeah, the new mode is an interesting way to sort of solve that. It's actually quite fun. You kind of have to push. The more aggressive you are, the more you can control those points. And so if your team sort of hangs back and really snipes, they're only going to be able to really control that front layer, which means the other team will be able to control the other two, and you'll be able to win. Or the third layer will also be contested from the other team, so you maybe not even be able to capture that. And you can stalemate, or you can not stalemate. I'm sorry, but you can lose by trying to just like stalemate and hold the line very easily if they just are pushed forward in front of you. So it is definitely an interesting thing that might encourage a very different style of gameplay. We're testing it right now on Super Test and kind of seeing how it works, and we've got the British cruisers there right now as well. So that's been fun to try and test that with with just torpedoes flying everywhere.
Speaking of Bastion mode, are there any changes coming to it? Like, how's the feedback been for Bastion, and are we going to see it rolled across more maps?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the feedback on Bastion mode is fairly positive. We want to definitely expand it. We have a couple ideas of sort of different areas we want to add because right now there's really just the spotting and the sort of turrets that sort of act like basically ships that don't move, and we want to add some more interesting sort of complexity to those. And definitely going to be rolling out some more maps in the future. Of course, a big request has been just to have it show up a little bit more often. So we've definitely passed that along to the team to say like, hey, we'd love to see Bastion just show up a little bit more frequently so people can actually get a feel for it better. Because I think one of the biggest complaint I heard about Bastion mode is that they don't see it ever. That's about it.
Right, fair enough. Uh, so I just want to ask you like a game system question, and that is related to dispersion. Uh, to the best of my knowledge, the dispersion system game has never really been explained in depth, and especially if you look at some of the conversations revolving around the Dunkirk and its guns and its dispersion numbers, there's a lot of confusion community about like is dispersion linear, and if possible, it can give like a more detailed breakdown exactly how dispersion works.
Okay, so talking about in-game mechanics and stuff like that. So I've been trying to put together a list of sort of the top requested things that people want to know more about. Things like how modules are damaged and what the sort of algorithm for that is. Fire chance, the stuff you were just mentioning that I just thought since we just took a pause. What was the exact question you're talking about? You're talking about dispersion
Yeah.
versus horizontal versus vertical, or just dispersion in general? Were you asking? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, dispersion in general. I mean, like import, we're only given one number for dispersion. Is that horizontal? Is that vertical? Does it scale linearly? And also, like, how does sigma play into all this?
The hidden sigma values, of course. Well,
Yes.
it's definitely something we want to try and detail out. So I've got a page with the dev team right now that I'm having them sort of detail out sort of explanations for all of these in kind of layman speak, because I could show you the formulas, but they are a very complicated calculus, and it doesn't probably actually tell you what they mean. So I'm trying to get an actual usable sort of explanation, I guess, for these mechanics that sort of give you kind of a rule of thumb of, okay, this is why this happens versus this. So I'm working on that, and hopefully we'll get that post up in the next couple of weeks, where it kind of details a bunch of those big ones. Then we'll keep asking for more too. Where if you guys want to know more about whatever X mechanic in the game, we want to try and help clear up those kind of confusions.
Fair enough. Another game system question, and this time related to plunging fire. Is that a feasible concept in the game? Because from what I understand, because a lot of the battleship guns have their ranges, reduced to like manageable levels. Like I imagine some of the ships in this game, therefore, can't really achieve the kind of angle to get plunging fire. Uh, I mean, am I right about this? Am I wrong about this? Can you elaborate?
It depends on it really depends on the ship. Some definitely have an easier time than others. Of course, the problem is with a lot of battleships is at that range, your dispersion is so difficult that hitting the target is half the problem. But
Right.
no, plunging fire is definitely something you can do somewhat effectively with certain ships. I think some of the ones that were big of the rainbow arcs, like if you can take happen to go into a battle, maybe a training room with a Cleveland and an Omaha, and see if you can citadel out that thing from the front by landing down on straight on top of it. And it's actually possible to do. But again, that's kind of like the easy mode to try and do that. But it kind of scales up in difficulty depending on some certain guns. Like the German guns, for example, don't have as much arc as some of the other ones, and so it's a little harder to do the plunging fire on that kind of stuff. Definitely for those.
Right. Can we maybe in the future get like a unique ribbon for plunging fire citadels?
Could be interesting. Might be hard to detect though sometimes, just depending on, because it's kind of a little subjective whether it was plunging. But yeah, I possibly that would be an interesting, detailed thing to add in. I'll take a note of that. Maybe that's something we can figure out.
Okay.
So you mentioned a lot of tester stuff, and I know we talked a while back, probably 2 or 3 months, but we've had some questions since then about how do you get into super test, and when at the time I think we kind of talked about maybe there would be a public opening or something like that, but I was just wondering if you had an update on that process and where you guys are currently.
Yeah, we've been doing kind of some sort of or a couple new waves in of the since we've last talked. I think I can't remember how many waves we've added in, but it's been much more on just sort of an ad hoc basis where we've been sort of looking out for people who've been really constructive, and we had a lot of really good ideas of who we wanted to maybe invite and see if they were interested. So we had definitely grabbed a lot of cool people and over the last few months, but it's something we want to open up to the wider public at some point, and sort of have a general, hey, are you interested in joining Super Test? Because at some point we don't know everyone. we can't find every single cool person on the forum. So we'd love to hear some people if they want to come out and maybe haven't necessarily been seen by us or have worked with other super testers before, have a chance to get in.
So basically, you're still working on kind of a referral system, and either that or a community contribution system.
Yeah, mostly I think the biggest way to get in right now would be to just, be constructive on the forums, be helpful with your feedback, join in things like public test and let us know how you feel about that kind of stuff. We're looking for people who can write, very detailed reports that are very unbiased, of course. We've got to make sure that people understand that, new guys you're going to experience this content, casual guys, hardcore guys are all going to play the same game. So what is their different experience, and what do we want to make change to make either one of those groups happy? So it's a complicated thing, and it's not for everyone because it does take a lot of time. You have to dedicate hours a week to playing on Super Test. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely just show us that you're interested in providing feedback on the forums, and that's what we're looking for.
All right, we talked last week with the chieftain, and during the conversation about battleships, he actually brought up that there were some really interesting concerns and legitimate points when it came to CV balancing and plays, and I was just curious, what were the top constructive points that you guys have taken away so far that you're really looking at when it comes to CV balance?
Sorry, you cut in and out a little bit on that one. Was it specifically about carrier balance there?
It was. I was saying last week when we were talking to the chieftain, when we were talking battleships, he made a comment that there was some really constructive feedback on CV play, and I was just wondering what the top points were that you guys have taken away and that you're looking at when it comes to the CV balance.
I got you. Yeah. So definitely, it's been a hot topic about how do we balance CVs, especially the US CVs. And one of the things we definitely want to do is make the fighters and their ability to control the air more competitive. Right now it's very, very difficult for a U.S. carrier player to sort of outstrip just the sheer amount of planes that the Japanese can deal with or can send out, and it's something we want to balance so it feels like there is a different play style, but they both have a strong fighting chance to sort of control the skies. And it's definitely something we've been talking about and thinking about what's the best way to do it. Part of it, of course, is changing around the UI a bit because the UI, honestly, for carriers is just difficult and clunky and doesn't feel great. So it's something we definitely want to revamp as well as part of this. But, specifically working on the fighters, I think, for U.S. carriers and just making them more competitive is probably where we're going to start. Not necessarily just making them do more damage or something like that. That's not necessarily the answer, we don't think. But we're trying to think of a creative way that which we can kind of solve this issue.
I find it interesting because for a lot of people, the reason why they prefer Japanese carriers over American carriers is because their torpedo drops are not so RNG based. This allows them to more effectively tackle things like destroyers and cruisers. Has Morgan looked at that at all, or is that just...
I don't think it was actually in the interview with Arthur, but I've talked with him quite frequently, and one of the things he is very frustrated about is that it is easy to reduce your RNG with torpedo bombers when you have skill. So the better you are, the more accurate and the more damage you can do. But for dive bombers, it's still a roll of the dice. It's no matter how good you are, you still can't be as effective as the dive or as the torpedo bombers. And so that's an inconsistency that we need to deal with, either by making it so that they have an optional way to not do that or to make those things better. But yeah, we need to also deal with why RNG favors really one style over the other heavily.
What's the
overwhelmingly, I would say.
All right.
I mean, I know I come across as salty, but it's true. It's just so frustrating.
Well, when you get one of the top CV players like Sean or something like that, and you see his planes and you just happen to be too far away from protection, you're going home. You might as well queue up the next ship.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, we like that it has a cool kind of skill cap, and it's a wide, you can jump in and it feels all right, but then there's just a massive amount of things you can do to get better at it. We want to make sure we don't lose that either, because it's cool that the carriers can really get really good at carrying.
Yeah, definitely. So what's the top UI interface feature you guys are looking at changing or improving?
Overall, I think Armor Viewer, of course, is the thing we've been talking about a lot. We've been testing it on the Super Test just very, very recently, and we're all pretty excited about that. It's looking pretty good now. We've got all the models finally redone, so every ship in the game you can go and look in and check its actual the server side armor values for basically everything out there. It's shaping up to be pretty good. So I think that's going to be a huge thing too. Just sort of like people just going into the tech tree and sort of just diving in and sort of like looking at where maybe the weaknesses are of ships and where the sort of best way to maybe use that plunging fire like you were talking about, or man, no, fighting this ship, there's no way I'm going to hit plunging fire because of all these layers of armor or something. So that's probably going to be the biggest UI change coming in the next patch by far.
Speaking of that particular feature, like in the Squall Line videos, for both the NC and the Scharnhorst now, very briefly, like it showed you like the maximum penetration that the shells could achieve at certain distances. Is that gonna eventually come to the port as well? So you'll be able to like look at a gun and see, at 15 kilometers, I can expect it to be able to punch through, X millimeters of armor.
Yeah, I think we want to try and find an interesting way that people can just sort of quickly sort of take a gun and go, can I pen it like this? Can I pen this ship like this?
Yes.
And maybe it's something you sort of drag around where you pick a gun off the table, I guess, and you sort of point it at the ship at different places and kind of set it around, and then it sort of gives you a value read out in the corner or something. I don't know. It's something we want to make it really intuitive and simple, so it's like, you can just take any gun in the game and sort of understand, okay, against this armor, I should do this. But unfortunately, just giving the straight penetration values don't necessarily do that because, armor schemes on these ships are really complicated. It's not just necessarily the flat hull on the outside, but, all on the inside, there's just a million different compartments and pieces of armor that are blocking different things. So how many parts does it go through? How many different armor values does it bounce off? And what's the residual amount of energy left after, breaking through this piece of armor and all that kind of stuff that isn't really communicated by just a straight number value like that. That's what we want to communicate as well. And that's a lot more complicated.
Right. Well, what I had in mind was just like, you just literally just could go to like a training room kind of thing, but instead of a ship, say you're like sitting in a port or like a fort, and you just pick a gun and you pick a target ship and you pick like which angle the ship is facing towards you, and the gun would just have zero dispersion, perfect accuracy. Just shoot at the ship and just see, at what angles and what parts of the ship can you achieve, the most damage.
Oh, so you want like a testing range?
Yeah, exactly, like a weapons testing range.
Yeah, maybe something like that would be the solution, right? So it's kind of a separate area that you go in and try and do this stuff. And I don't know, something like that would be cool. It's something we're working on, so I'll put that down as an idea for sure.
Awesome.
Oh no, you threw him a bone. He's good now.
No, it goes beyond that. Like I would also just like to see just general improvements to the port as well to make it more lively, because the port's kind of static right now. It'd be nice to like spruce it up a little.
Well, it's that way to make you get out of it and get back into the game.
Bring back the blimp.
The blimp.
The blimp, or just to see maybe other ships that you own just sailing, to and fro, just make it seem like there's activity.
I disagree. I'd rather have something else than have them work on like, here are my ships floating by me that I'm not playing right now. That's just me though.
I mean, I would hope the team that works on that is different from the team that's, say, making new ship lines and all that stuff. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, one thing I forgot to ask you when we were talking about carriers and English cruisers and stuff coming out, and one of the things they mentioned in the video recently was that probably not any Russian or German carriers. So I think we can all reasonably expect that at some point in the game there'll be British carriers, and we all know that everything has kind of a flavor. And I was just wondering if there was an idea or a concept out there about kind of what a British carrier flavor might be.
Unfortunately, I don't know what the plan is behind the British carriers right now. I know it's a little ways off, but it's definitely something we're going to look into, and we'll have to make them special. But unfortunately, with carriers, especially since we want to kind of rework their systems, like trying to plan out like what's going to make them unique now, when we're also planning to probably change the whole system before they come out, doesn't make a lot of sense. So I unfortunately I don't know if we have a solid plan on how we're going to make them really special, but they definitely will be cool. They're obviously have played a huge role in history, and we want to make sure that they're represented.
No, I guess that makes sense. But what's the next premium ship coming out?
We just did Dunkirk. What's next, man? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Prince Eugen? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Eugen's coming pretty soon too. I think definitely for North America. I feel like there's a couple more ships that are actually going to come to the tech tree, and there may be a ship that we've never released coming to the tech tree immediately. So that could be kind of fun.
You said immediately. Does that mean like this week?
I mean, not like immediately, like it's going to show up, but it would show up to the tech tree for its first sale.
Oh, okay.
Like the first chance to get it, you'd be able to get it in the tech tree. Is what I'm saying.
I was like, what? Armored Patrol hasn't data mined that for you yet? All right. So Prince Eugen, what? You're not going to tell us what module difference there's going to be, are you?
Eugen, right now we're still doing some testing on. We just I believe last week finished up our last round of reports on it. So it's, again, a lot of this stuff is still in testing, and I can't talk about like what its final stats are because they're probably going to change, and then I'd be wrong, and I'd feel bad for telling you guys wrong things.
Fair enough.
That and you wouldn't have a job that you could play video games at work anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true too, and that's a bonus.
All right. So something we haven't talked about, or I think a lot of people haven't really paid attention to, but I've gotten some questions lately about the next round of team battles and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, so we've talked actually a bunch. You guys are hitting on a bunch of topics we literally talked about like last week. It's funny. So team battles is something that we are reworking, and we want to make sure is awesome for the next implementation, and we're pushing it back a little bit later. Hopefully by the end of 2016 we'll have something really cool to roll out, but we're going to go back to another ranked season, and right now we're working on what that new ranked season is going to look like and what the rewards are and things like that. But it should be coming out fairly soon, and we're going to try and make it, listen to your guys' feedback from season 4 and make sure it feels right in terms of competitiveness. And the new matchmaker will be in there for sure, so that'll be really nice. That DDs won't overwhelm everything. And so hopefully also we'll have some new mechanics in to kind of encourage some other classes to jump in. So fingers crossed, the next ranked season is going to be really awesome.
So
Speaking of ranked,
so we're going to get ranked first and then team battles, but both are going to be before the new year is what I understood you to say.
That's our hope. Team battles definitely is pushed back. Hopefully we'll get that soon, but the next thing we're working on now is getting another ranked season coming fairly soon, hopefully in the next month or two.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Do we know
Spectre.
what? Yeah, sorry. Do we know what tier this next rank season is going to take place at? For rank 10 and above?
Not yet. It's still being discussed, especially for North America, because I know there's a lot of people who would like to see it changed from last season. So we're trying to figure out if we can support that, and there's enough population of people who would provide decent matchmaking, and we'll see. We're not. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm the guy who's supposed to actually go figure out and look at the data next week and go, can we support matchmaker enough? So I'll let you know.
Right. Are there any other changes coming? Like, a lot of people have complained about the presence of detonations in rank, and therefore sort of requiring players to have those flags or risk getting just blown up right off the bat. Is there any possibility of that just being taken out of ranked?
I don't think we've discussed specifically removing detonations and things like that, but there's a few things we want to do to make it more comfortable that we've discussed. Possibly, changing how the loser star works and things like that, and if expanding that out to maybe a few more people, or if that's the right solution, or how do we make it so we encourage the right kind of gameplay, because we don't want people to feel like they have to cower back and fear of detonations and things like that constantly, or their whole team is going to fall apart, so everyone's just going to play for themselves. So we're going to change a few things. We haven't decided on what things we're going to change yet, so I can't talk to exactly which issues we're going to address specifically, but definitely all this feedback is definitely things that are on the table. We're trying to figure out what do we adjust to make this work.
How about the possibility of requiring ships to not be stocked? Because that's also something that very rarely, but does crop up every now and then, where someone thinks that ranked is an appropriate place to be, grinding experience out for their ships, and they bring in, just their brand new Colorado or whatever, and It's just feels like a bit of a drag on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want a balance for that, but I don't think we want to discourage people who are just trying to get up there, and like, oh man, I just finally got my tier 7 ship to finally get into ranked, and it's like, oh, sorry, man, you still have to grind a bit more, like, or we'd have to be clear about that with them, and also we don't want to discourage people from using different loadouts, because obviously some people want to use the B holes, and some of using for the C holes, so there's that as well, that we don't want to just be super restrictive, but if it's a significant issue, we'll address it. But right now, it's not something we've seen as a really big problem enough to actually like restrict other people from getting into it.
Okay.
All right. So on the ranked, I'm just curious, how many people got the Flint this season? I know it's a random number to make you pull out, but I thought maybe it was important enough that you might know.
Give me 3-4 seconds here. Hold on. It was the wrap-up article we did came a little later. We didn't, for some reason, it got kicked off our to-do list for some reason, and we realized really that we hadn't published a wrap-up article, but there was one that told people exactly that. I'm trying to find where we hit it.
I remember the one that showed how many
battles.
total people ranked out was just over 4,000 and such, but I don't remember how many people got the Flint.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we only put on nearly 4,000 people who reached rank 1. In terms of people who earned the Flint, I want to say about a quarter of those people had completed ranked 1 in the 2 other seasons needed to get in there. So I want to say around like 1,250 for North America.
So you're gonna continue that into the next ranked season?
Yeah, at least that's the plan right now. So if basically the same rules again apply for getting the Flint, but we're thinking about what about people who've already earned the Flint? What do we do for those folks? Do we do another round of something else? Do we make a new layer? What does that look like as well? But yeah, so you'll be able to earn the Flint again in season 5 as well.
So there's a possibility of maybe another ship replacing the Flint in the future?
Not necessarily replacing it, but becoming like, what if you've done it in 4 seasons? So you've got the Flint last season. Now you want to get something else, or 5 seasons, or 6 seasons in. You've been playing for a while. We want kind of something new that people could, keep working for each season. But then, if you just got in, you could start on that track right away, and you can start getting those rewards, as early as possible. So, hopefully it's flexible that, everyone is, able to earn the ship they want as long as they, keep participating in ranked battles.
This is not so much a question so much as a commentary, but I hope that when you make those decisions, they're communicated in a very timely fashion. Because I know several people who weren't able to get the Flip this season was because they, after the sort of experimental season 1 where you guys gave out the Kitakami, a lot of people ground up to rank 1 season 2 hoping to get a rank 1 ship, and obviously there was no ship there. And then season 3 rolled around, and several people were like, "Oh, they're not giving away a free ship, so I'm not really gonna try for rank 1 that much." And obviously, season 4 rolls around, and we discovered that if you want the Flint this season, you needed to have ranked out the last couple of seasons. And I just hope that moving forward, these sort of prize structures, are communicated to us beforehand, so we can know that I should probably grind to rank 1 this coming season if I want to be eligible for rewards.
Yeah, no, we totally understand that, and we haven't done a great job of being upfront about that. And the first sort of test season we did, we call it season 0, or the beta season. We were just trying a few different things to see what it worked and what didn't, and then after season 2 we realized, like, crap, people just did a bunch of work, and we have these ships that we didn't communicate were the big prizes, so we've got to do that better in the future. Definitely for season 5 we want to be upfront from day 1 that we announce it, that like, here are the prizes, here's how you earn them, here's what you need to do. And so it's not quite so mysterious, because we've definitely screwed that up in the past. Though we will take credit that we messed up on that one.
So are you looking at doing a similar style reward system for team battles?
That's why I said team battles has been kicked back, because we're kind of reworking that on a bigger scale, and we want to figure out how do we make this a unique mode as well. So right now things in team battles are really in flux, so I can't speak to any sort of final decisions, because we just don't know yet.
Oh, well, so here's the softball question then, right? Which is, all things clan warfare related, right? When do you think, when do you think clan warfare is going to come out and, or clan tags, and what do you think that time frame looks like?
So for battling between clans, I can say like probably not this year. We're going to try and have some content for clans and things like that at some point, but actual like clan wars or something like that with a global map or whatever that would look like in the future, that definitely is much farther off. But on the good side of things, the clan systems and things like that are something that are fairly close to getting finalized. And, things like the first iteration of clans we want to roll out with is things like clan tags, clan chat, the kind of basic social structure to like work with people. And then, hopefully in iteration 2, we can get in like kind of the style that Blitz has right now, where there's like missions you work together as a team. There's no necessary like, clan area that you go and fight other clans in yet, but it's about working together as a clan to earn some cool rewards for everyone. And so that's kind of where the direction we want to go first, just in our initial iterations. But it's definitely something we're going to expand on. And the clan stuff, we're hoping to get in the next couple patches. I don't have a finalized timeline that I can share with you right now, unfortunately, but definitely it's something we know is something you guys want. So hopefully next couple patches we can work something into that.
Wow, that's a lot sooner than I thought, because earlier we said patch cycles 3 to 4 weeks, and you said next couple.
3.
So to me that means this year then is we'll start seeing some implementation of clan features.
We can hope for sure. With the 3-week patch cycle, I mean, we're moving quick. We've got big features every single patch of those. So this is not something we're trying to roll out slowly. We do want to take iterations slowly in that sense, where we want to roll out something we think we're happy with and done, show it off, get feedback, and then iterate piece by piece by piece. But because we're on this fast dev cycle of really releasing lots of stuff very quickly, we can do those iterations very fast. So it's a step-by-step process, but it's also hopefully going to go fast enough that we get some cool stuff. And you guys have seen, our last 3-4 patches, we've stuck to our guns and saying every 3 weeks we're going to do something cool. So right after German battleships, we kept the hype train going, and we said, you know what, cruisers are coming too. So it's going to be a pretty fun set of next coming patches for the rest of the year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm broke. I need more in-game currency. But is there, with the clan stuff coming up, is there any talk of increasing division size just for random battles?
That's not something we've contemplated, actually. I don't think that's been brought up. I don't know if that's something we'll do for that, or if we want maybe a special mode, or we support ranked and clans or something like that. Maybe that ties in better there between getting 7 people of your clan together, but obviously they'd have to be against people who are also 7-man team up, because that would be incredibly unfair. So something like that maybe we can work in, but not necessarily expanding divisions out just for clans.
And then I guess some final thoughts. I just, we're getting to the time frame when Supremacy League's going to be starting up again soon, and just curious about your general thoughts about what you're looking forward to for that, and kind of what the next level of involvement is.
Well, Wargaming is going to win this season for sure. Definitely, I can tell you that much. We've got a great team together, and we're gonna sweep everything and take all the prizes for ourselves.
That sounds totally legit.
You guys gonna deploy previously unreleased developer ships?
Yeah, that's definitely a strong possibility, because or maybe just what I want to do is take maybe like the Kotori and just refit it with Yamato guns and just maybe bring that in or something. Or of course we just have the brute force method. We just ban you at the beginning of a battle and then we win anyways.
Wow. Just AFK sink them at the beginning. Get a handicap.
Yep.
I'm just saying there are ways.
All right. Well, good luck. Are you on that team? You gonna play?
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna be leading the team. I'm team captain right now for Team Wargaming, so it should be fun.
All right. Well, I don't know. I think we got a lot of good stuff today, Spectre. Unless you got something that's really burning, you want to hold them around for and keep them from dinner.
No, I have gone through virtually my entire list of questions. I'm pretty satisfied.
All right, unless there's something that you said, oh man, you should ask us about that, even though we didn't know we should ask you about that. So you got any of those for us?
Not this time, but Sco's got a question. I'm not sure if we should open the floor to it though. I'll leave it to you.
All right, let me see. Oh, of course he would. Of course he would. Because, Sko's Polish, so he wants to know if there's going to be more Polish DDs.
Unfortunately, I don't think we have any of those planned for the rest of 2016 for sure. I don't remember anyone's coming up, but I know the EU folks, of course, want to do more stuff with for the Polish community. So maybe in the future there'll be another Polish DD or Polish ship of some sort. But right now I don't know of any particular ones in the plans. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, there you go, Sko. Maybe next year, man. Maybe next year. Get in line.
All right.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and such a quick turn. And actually, it's looking like it's starting to be a pretty regular feature. So maybe we'll work something else out there. And thanks for coming by and have a great dinner.
Yeah, thanks for having me, folks. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing this, and hopefully I could shed some light into what we're doing and why we do it. Obviously, I think, stay tuned for some of those big things that are coming up, like the mechanic worksheet that I want to break down and some other things like that on the forums. Because hopefully that'll answer some of your guys' questions as well. But yeah, thanks again for having me, guys. This was great.
All right. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.